All right, bringing back fan favorite, one of our most popular guests, Jon Moxley. What's up, man? Long time no chat.
I was hanging out, man.
You've been busy.
Yeah. This fucking this book nearly killed me. Killed me. It's hard, man. Like, I might have told you before, like I had no interest in writing a book per se. Like, it never even really crossed my mind. And they're like, they started hitting me up about it, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't really. Honestly, it almost felt a little like pretentious. I'm like, nobody needs to read. I don't need a life story in a book. Like, I'm not that important. I'm just a stupid wrestler. Like, I don't even have that much to say. Like, I don't know. I started thinking about it, and there's these books called The Tao of Willie, Roll Me Up and Smoke Me When I Die. These Willie Nelson books that he does, and they're pretty good, and they're short. They're like 200 something pages, shorter than this is going to be, but they're not like linear stories. They're just kind of fun reads. They just kind of bounce around, and you kind of get life tales from Willie, and you get kind of the sense of his thoughts and feelings and kind of what it would be like to hang out with Willie Nelson. Mm-hmm. So you kind of feel like, I get a sense of him and what he's about. And it's very light. And I was like, well, I could do something like that, maybe. So I wrote a couple samples, just like, okay, what if it was something like this? Like, not like I was born in Ohio, and then I went in first grade, then second grade, then third grade, then this pay-per-view happened, then that pay-per-view happened. Like, I think that's pretty lame. But I was like, what if we did something like this? I sent them a couple samples, and they were all into it. So, like, then I was like, shit, I'm committed to this now. So I was like, all right, let's do it. Then as it went on, and I've never written anything in my life, ever. So as it went on, like, there are parts that I wrote earlier that are very, very light and fun. And it's I would not consider it an autobiography by any means. It's not like I was born here and then this. It's a collection of stories. I almost look at it like an album. You start with an opening track, and then you go up and down and yada yada, and then close it out. And it's a specific amount, and you end up with stuff on the cutting room floor that just kind of didn't jive with the rest of it. Sometimes less is better, because you can always come back and do another one, or leave that for other. That'll always be there for later.
Or if you're Jericho, you can come back and do like 4 or more. Oh,
exactly. That's what I was. So it kind of like took on a lot. I didn't really know where I was going with anything at first. It was much lighter at first when I first started writing. Then I kind of got the hang of it and started getting into stuff, and then get a knack for it, and kind of, I dare say, kind of started to develop a writing style kind of my own, and then started getting into stuff. Well, I'm like, well, if I'm going to get into it, I got to get into it all the way, because I can't just say this and without putting it all in proper context of how we got here. And then so then I started getting deep into some stuff. So you'll probably kind of notice, I mean, this freaking thing doesn't come out for another 5 months, which is weird even talking about it, because I don't know why it's already on pre-sale. I mean, but you should buy it on pre-sale.
Yeah, you got to get those pre-sale numbers up, because then it has something to do with Amazon ranking and all that stuff. So that pre-sale stuff is actually really important.
Well, I mean, those things are going to go like hotcakes, babe. You don't have to want to wait till next year to get your hands on it. But you probably notice as it goes, like, I didn't really have, like, the vision of the book kind of changed.
Yes.
And probably a little over halfway, I started to get like a vision of like what I would now it's like a singular piece of art that I'm crafting. And then it really kind of picked up, and I was like, oh man, this might actually be something decent. So I'm like, I'm pretty excited about it. Like, I think people are gonna like it. It's definitely different than any other wrestling book. It's definitely, the book of zero fucks, because it's my book. It's not your book. I put in what I want. I don't put in what I don't want. How I want to say it. It's very, it's very blunt, like about some stuff. But it is what it is. Like, it's just it's very unapologetic. But I think it's got a good balance, and kind of has stories and stuff from like from as recent as a couple of weeks ago, from as far back as like my first memories or memories of wrestling. So it's like really all over the place, and it'll be kind of chaotic, and it'll jump around in tone and style, you know, a lot. I mean, there's like pieces that are just completely light and totally just goofing around. And then there's some stuff that's like really, really, really dark. And that's another challenging part of it, is like it takes that I didn't really plan on, but it's also, you know, fun. I don't know if fun is even the word, but it's also kind of rewarding to do, because to get into these stories and like go back in time, you have to really put yourself back there mentally and emotionally to like, what was I thinking? What was I feeling? What else was going on around me? What did I see and hear and smell and everything? And you got to like put yourself back there through whatever means you got to do to get yourself there. So it's a lot, you know, it's like a full mental, emotional commitment, dude. It's like, to really get it. Like, dude, like Renee come down at 2 a.m. I'm like on the porch in a mania, you know, like trying to get back to where I was at a certain point in time, you know, to kind of like remember exactly what was going on and everything, you know. So it was a wild experience, and it's kind of it's cool, like kind of reflection. It gives you kind of like, oh, like if I didn't give a crap about anything before, now that I've kind of seen the whole lay of the land and have more of a understanding of how I got here and who I am, it almost gives you a better perspective of yourself. And now I'm like, now I extra give zero fucks about anything. So this is who I am. This is what's up. This is what happened, and whatever, you know, and like it is what it is, you know, like, so I'm pretty, it was a wild experience, man. I'll tell you this, a book requires so much energy and focus and time and like concentration. I think it mentally it physically drains you, because you sit down and get up and you write you can't just say, I'm going to set aside 2 hours and write 1,000 words, because it doesn't work like that. Sometimes you just stare at the screen. Nothing's working. Nothing's jiving. I wasted probably a month where I was on something and I just didn't like it. I didn't like the way it was going. I didn't like the way it made me feel. For some reason, I thought I had to put this in because I thought other people might think this should be in the book. And then I was just like, I don't like the way this makes me feel. I don't like the tone. I don't like it. It's not fun. I'm just cutting this and going in a different direction. Maybe I'll go back down that direction in another book, and if I ever did another one. If nobody likes this one, then this would probably be it. So like, my point is, like you sit down and write for a couple hours, and then it's like you just went on a marathon run. Like you're like drained. You're so exhausted because you put so much concentration into this. And I tell you, it takes a hell of a lot of concentration and like all of your effort and focus and everything. But I'll tell you what also takes a lot of, you need to pay a lot of attention to and focus on and be aware of and so forth, is a very, very pregnant wife. They demand a hell of a lot of your attention too. So trying to do these two things at the same time was like a nightmare cocktail of hell, to be perfectly blunt. Like, because I'm just like, I'm trying to rhyme. Like I'll get on a roll here, and I'm like, I'm in a roll here. And she's like, I'm trying to hang this picture up. I'm like, the baby's not going to see the picture for another 5 years. This shit's due in 3 weeks. This is, you know, the time of urgency is different for these two things. I'll hang that shit up when I'm done with this. Like, now my concentration busted, you know, like shit like that. So I would say if you're planning on having a kid and you're planning on writing a book, don't plan them at the same time.
The reflection thing that you just said is super interesting, because, you know, you had to go back to certain memories and moments, but at the same time, as you're going back to those memories and moments, did you learn anything about yourself? Like, you know, I imagine in some instances you were probably pretty hard on yourself, and then maybe now in reflection, you're like, wow, like that wasn't as bad as I remembered it, and maybe I was being a little bit too hard on myself. But was there any moments like that, like any aha moments about your life when you were reflecting about, you know, what while you're writing and trying to think of what to write next?
Yeah, a little bit too. Like, how you see how all the different events kind of correlate, like from when you were a kid to when you were this age and that age to today. I'm like, oh, this is how I always react in this situation. This is the same way I would have reacted when I was 12 to this,
right,
or whatever. Or you see how you mature and evolve and so forth. You know, this is definitely not a book where it's like, oh, I was a nutcase and all this, and then my entire life changed, and then I found God or whatever, and then now everything is great. This is not that. Like, I'm as big of a piece of shit today as 20 years ago. I'm just like a more mature, level-headed piece of shit. You know, it's very unapologetic.
You actually sent me a few of the things that you had written and some ideas. And I mean, I loved the way that you wrote those things because it was very much in your voice. Like as I listened to you here talking, that is the voice that was in my head when I was reading it. And so there was a lot of great chapters on wrestling and you coming up in the business, but I think my favorite one, and I don't know if this is going to be in the book or not, but the one that you sent me, I think I replied and I was like, oh, this is my favorite one, is the one about you and Renee. And what made that stand out, it was so different from the other chapters. So it's not like, you know, this book is just like sort of one dimensional. Like there are also other tones in it because you at least as far as the stuff that I saw, you did talk about getting together with your wife. So that was, you know, as much as I like the wrestling stuff, I also really like that stuff.
Oh, that's going in there for sure. I got a lot of advice to dish out. a lot of wisdom accumulated in that regard. And I mean, basically it's like I don't know anything about anything. I'm an idiot I'm a complete nobody from nowhere. But somehow I've conquered like all of life. I've got I have the greatest situation. I don't know how the hell this happened, really. And I've made every possible mistake humanly possible. I have no this is how I planned it out when I was 15. And this is how I was going to get to where I'm sitting today. Like, I got this great advice from somebody. Like, no, I never got any fucking good advice from anybody. Like, well, I mean, yeah, I have little things, but you know, I never had some grand plan. It all just like seemed to, in the end, somehow all work out. Not that this is the end. I hope not. But so maybe not that I'm dishing out. This is not a self-help book by any means, but maybe I somehow stumbled onto some secret formula to where like shit worked out okay for me. So maybe there's something to learn. Maybe. I don't know. Definitely in the chapter you're referencing, I do go on a bit of a we get down and practical. You know. But,
that was the word that I was going to use is practical. I think we overthink a lot of things, right? Like we overthink, you know, maybe we do too much research or think about things too much, and you know that chapter was absolutely very practical. Is there going to be?
Oh yeah, it's like wrestling. It's like did the people make noise? Did they like it? Are they happy? Are they smiling? Did they have a good time? That's it. That's literally all that matters. Like, you know, so like, oh, that was stupid or this or that, or you sit there and pick apart details and for hours and hours, which you probably do on your shows. Yeah, but it's like, were they, I don't, that's not me. That's not the way I look at things. I go, were they smiling? Were they happy? Not that I don't like really, really think really hard and go into like, I mean, I look at shit like way deep and as far as storytelling and so forth, but you know, that's kind of just my, this is kind of the way I look at a lot of stuff. Is just like, you know, like we don't have like almost nowhere that has like breakfast sandwiches. they don't serve them past 10 a.m. But I'm like, what if I work a third shift job? Or what if it's 2 o'clock and I feel like Egg McMuffin? And you're like, no, we don't serve breakfast after 10. But I'm like, it's a fucking egg, dude. You serve chicken. You'll give me a chicken sandwich. That egg would have turned into a chicken. It's protein. It's a very healthy thing. Like, who says that we can't eat a breakfast sandwich after 10 a.m.? That's just because you said it, because everybody else does it, because this is the way it's done, because this is it. I can't buy that. You got to give me a much better explanation. You got to tell me that if you eat eggs after 10 a.m., you turn into a gremlin. That I understand. If you don't give me a reasonable explanation, if you just say that because that's just the way it's done, I go, well, that doesn't work for me. Because if I want a fucking Egg McMuffin at 2 p.m., that's what I'm going to eat. And I don't care what you think about it. That's just the way I think about everything. Yeah, and then the book is just kind of like the fun part for me when I started getting into it was like talking about storytelling is like it's kind of another version of storytelling, whether that be music or movies or television, film, or books or comic books or whatever, like live stand-up or whatever. You know, it's entertainment and storytelling, and you know, this isn't like a history book. I'm not going, you know, like it's nothing like that. I'm not going, it's not like a recount of history as much as it is like storytelling. It's fun. And I mean, it's all true, but it kind of reminds me of like doing promos or even, you know, cause it's really lame. It'd be really lame to just be like one of my rules was like, I'm not just going to recap anything that happened on TV. Like there's a little bit of like stuff you saw on TV, but you'll be getting it from like a different perspective as the way I saw it in a totally different way, I think, than other people do it. Like the last thing I was going to do was like, and then at Backlash, I wrestled this guy. And then the next month at SummerSlam, I wrestled this guy. And then this happened. Like, cause we already saw that on TV. Why do I need to recap it? I'm wasting everybody's time. And another thing was like, if it's a story I've told on a podcast a million times, if you can hear it on like Talk is Jericho, then it's probably not in the book because I've already told that story.
Right.
It's already out there. You can already hear it. So I was really trying to make this new information, all stuff that people don't know, that you may have never heard, or something you know about, but hearing it from a totally different perspective, so that it's all fresh, new information and I'm not wasting anybody's time. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, 100%. You know, one of the things that I kept telling you as I was reading some of the pieces is, you know, your voice is your voice and it works really well in your voice, which leads me to wonder, is there going to be an audiobook? Because I think an audiobook would be a tremendous thing to listen to of you actually being the one telling these stories.
Oh, 100%. I actually like when I hope that a lot of people, as far as the design of the book and everything, I hope a lot of people order the actual physical book because the kind of vision I have for it, it'd be really cool. It'd be much cooler to have the actual physical book than just get it on like Kindle or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I read books on Kindle. I listen to audiobooks on planes, you know, so I do all that. But I think this is going to be one where hopefully people want the actual physical book just because of the way I have it in my mind. But yes, I 100% plan on doing the audiobook. We haven't like planned for that or anything yet, but you know, I mean, it doesn't even come out for another 5 months. Like I woke up in the morning and they're like, congratulations, your pre-orders, you're selling book. I'm like, what do you mean pre-orders? They're like, it's on Amazon. I'm like, it's on Amazon right now. I'm like, it's not even done. We didn't even finish editing it yet. Like there's still like commas and periods and shit that need to be like, you know, like even though this is like barely going to be edited. Some of it's going to be not edited at all. Some of it's like just very stream of consciousness from the current present day. And it's just, I said, look, I know it looks terrible and it's dirty, but just leave it exactly like that because that was what spit out of my, the big chapter I wrote in 10 minutes. But it was the exact, almost like a journal entry, basically. But I'm like, leave it exactly like that. Because if we start going in and changing anything, then it's not authentic to what I was actually feeling at that exact moment in time. So like, but yes, I plan on doing the audiobook. And from the beginning, since I've never written anything, but like I also said, it's kind of like doing promos. It's just like the longest promo I've ever done. The promo that took me 4 months. But I don't write promos down. I don't like, because then if I feel like I'm trying to remember things that are written, I feel like then I could potentially forget something that's written. And then if I forget something, then I'm lost. I don't like to work like that. I like to just have the whole kind of concept in my head and then just see how it comes out. So like, but this is like written words. But I'm all over the place. But the whole time I was kind of writing it the way I would talk in real life. So there's a lot of swearing. If you don't like swearing, you're not gonna like this book. There's a lot of just like, it's, even if it's like grammatically incorrect, I'll do it. I did that. And like, I was very clear with them about this. I'm like, this is going to look like shit, but this is the way I would say it in real life. If it doesn't sound like me, nobody's going to like it, you know? Right. So like, and I wrote every single word. There's no ghostwriter. I can't come to terms with that concept in my mind. A ghostwriter, like, because these are going to be my words, you know? Like if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, this is the final, thing of like, what's the word I'm looking for? This is like the recap of my life, you know? So I'm like, it's gotta come from me, you know?
So the book comes out November 2nd. I'll put the links to the link to the pre-sale in the show notes for the podcast. But you know, November 2nd is going to get here pretty fast, and it'll be really cool. I think, you know, again, I haven't seen a lot of it. I've seen some of it, and the stuff that I've seen, I think the people who listen to this show, AEW fans, God, they're gonna eat the book up because it is very entertaining. One other thing before we kind of pivot here, which is Double or Nothing is coming up this week, and you guys are going to have close to a full building or even a full building for the show, which is the first time since we've been in this crazy pandemic. Like, how much are you chomping at the bit to be in front of like a full crowd again?
It's probably going to be wild, man. Like, the crowd we had when I wrestled Nagata a couple weeks back, I don't know how many people were there. Maybe like 1,200. Mm-hmm. I honestly have no. It could have been 500. It could have been 1,200. I didn't hear a number, and I have no concept. They were spaced out, but they were so loud and so into it that it felt like a full house. And like the second I walked through the door, because I was with Eddie, he was all pumping me up. I kicked the piss out of that door, like, and then people just went just like, and I was like, oh, it felt like a full house again, and I got hyped. So like, if it's 5,000 people, I'm probably getting more hyped. So like, it might get a little nuts. I'm pretty excited about it. Yeah. And just as we're kind of like very slowly coming back to normal, it's like, yes, finally, you know?
So for me, the pandemic in of itself, you know, one of the takeaways for me is sort of how much time I waste commuting to work or going to a gym versus having the equipment at my house, and just really like time management. Like, I think I got a little bit better at it, though. You know, I also added a bunch of different projects like a podcast or two, you know, in those hours. But I was wondering for you guys, you know, as a pro wrestler, not a normal sort of 9-to-5 kind of job, was there anything that you took away from how you changed habits or stuff during a pandemic that you think makes you better once we come back to normal about your craft?
Honestly, no. I don't want to work in front of an empty building. I don't want to work in front of fake fans. If we have to do it, I mean, and other companies too, everybody from Impact, Ring of Honor, New Japan, even the Thunderdome and all that, like everybody figured out a way to make it work in wrestling and in other sports too, like hockey and all them, you know, like, but UFC. I mean, everybody figured out a way to do it. But like, honestly, I didn't learn shit. I want to go back to full crowds. I don't want to tape multiple shows in a day. I want to be out there changing outfits as if it's a different day. I don't like that. I like showbiz, live TV. I want the adrenaline. I want to go out there live and do it once. I mean, like, there are times like through a tape and Dynamite or Dark or Elevation, or like I might have screwed up a move, like trying to do some lucha move or some shit with some of these fucking kids. And I'm like, I screw it up. And I just go, I'll just do it again. And then I get it right the second time. And it's cool because you can do that when it's taped.
Yeah.
But I'm like, if it wasn't taped, would I have screwed it up the first time? Nah, but like, I bet I wouldn't have. Because I'd have been concentrating harder. I would have been more, because it's live. I want to do it live. I want real people. I want to walk out of the arena. I want to walk back to the locker room, hear the crowd outside the curtain. I want to do it live one time. Fuck the pandemic. Like, we figured it out. We got through it. But like, once that's over, you know, I'm not like, you know, I would love there to be like I learned a very valuable lesson, but no, I didn't learn shit. I want to do it in live people. That's what I want.